How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to the Nerdy Basement Podcast. We are your hosts. As always, I am the OG Osmosis, or just simply Ozzy. And joining me, of course, each and every episode, all my main guys.
Damn right. Yo, it's Eddie. What's going on?
It's your boy Boozer.
And we are back again. This is our Black Panther Wakanda Forever spoiler review. Giving you guys a spoiler warning super early. Listen, by the chatter on social media, I'm pretty sure everybody, for the most part, has seen Wakanda Forever at this point.
If you haven't,
but as a courtesy
go.
for those who haven't, listen, give us a like, subscribe, hit the notifications, and then come back and then listen to our thoughts on Wakanda Forever. Full spoilers once you watch the film. But before we get into all that, we have a huge announcement regarding the Nerdy Basement Podcast feed as a whole. This is something we've been kind of, plotting and planning for quite some time. We are in a transitional phase of the podcast at this moment, which will be in full effect maybe the start or towards the middle of December, and then it'll be in full force heading into 2023. We'll be moving the podcast, all the shows, exclusively to YouTube, to be essentially a video exclusive podcast, and that's where everybody will be able to watch or listen to the Nerdy Basement Podcast. We're removing, for reasons we're not really going to disclose on the show at the moment, we're going to be removing the RSS feed on some of the major platforms, because basically the main reason is, the listenership is not there anymore. So instead of just, continuously kind of pumping out the audio format of the podcast, we're already recording, we have it all in one spot. So just leave it on YouTube and everybody can watch it there. But we'll try to keep some sort of audio format, which will probably be exclusive to the Nerdy Basement website. So if you guys want to listen to the audio version of the podcast, whether it be Anime in the Basement, whether it be the Nerdy Basement Podcast, you guys can find that on the nerdybasement.com. And obviously the video format, you can find it here on the Nerdy Basement YouTube channel. We also have additional YouTube channels for the Nerdy Basement and Anime in the Basement. Those separate channels will be having either full episodes or clips of our new episodes. So there's a YouTube channel dedicated specifically to Anime in the Basement now. There will be one probably for Comics in the Basement, whenever Ed decides to do any comic book related videos.
Pretty much, yeah.
There will be our main full podcast will be on the main Nerdy Basement YouTube channel, and then we'll have a clips, YouTube channel dedicated to just clips and bits of, parts of the Nerdy Basement podcast that you guys want to consume in the parts. But if you guys want to watch the whole thing, then obviously you guys can find that on the main YouTube channel, which is where you guys are watching this podcast right now. So that's the big announcement that we got for the Nerdy Basement Podcast, Anime in the Basement. So all the podcast shows that we have on the Nerdy Basement feed, that's where exclusively YouTube and the website will be our exclusive homes going forward. The last part with that, all of our old episode library will be archived, and we'll be putting that on Patreon. Some of it will be available on the Nerdy Basement website. But for the most part, we'll be archiving those older episodes. We have I would say maybe over 200 plus episodes combined.
Well, including comics. Yes, comics in the basement and
we have
Anime
a year
in
and
the
a half
Basement.
worth of
Yes.
Anime in the Basement podcast episodes, 100 plus episodes from the Nerdy Basement. So that's a pretty extensive podcast library, which will be archived, behind a paywall on Patreon. So if you guys want to go listen to our old stuff.
Not to say that some of our greatest hits aren't going to be on there already for
Right.
you. We might drop a couple episodes here and there to show you guys, hey, they're still around. And then like if you guys want some of the deep cuts, we might just bring them up on the website, or you look on them from our Patreon and all that fun stuff. You know what I mean? We're definitely working on a better way to reach you guys. And like Ozzy said, when it comes to YouTube right now, YouTube is king, and you can still listen to audio. You can listen to a video. You can watch video. It's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, it's a win-win for everybody. If you guys want to listen to the main feed now and kind of revisit some of those old episodes before we kind of vault them away, you still have until December, until the end of the year, essentially, is what you have to kind of listen to those episodes. Yeah, everything going forward from Anime in the Basement, Comics in the Basement, The Nerdy Basement will all be on YouTube and the Nerdy Basement website. Obviously, we'll be sharing a lot of stuff on social media, on the the Nerdy Basement Instagram, our TikTok pages, our Twitter pages, Facebook pages, Vero, all that good stuff. We want to make everything a little more accessible for everyone. Give it all nice and condensed in one spot. Obviously, video format is the big thing now. People want to watch video, so obviously that's been a nice little avenue for us. We've been noticing on our YouTube channel, so we figured, might as well just kind of continue with the flow and see how far we can go in that avenue. So we want to take this time to kind of encourage you guys to kind of subscribe, support us if you're coming from the RSS feed, so Spotify, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, things like that, Podbean, SoundCloud. Subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. You got something to say yet? Oh
$1.
yeah, and then obviously $1.
$1 a day.
$1. You get $1 a day, $1 a month. Listen, we are gonna have some crowdfunding stuff going on. I do have some things in the works at the moment. We will really appreciate obviously you guys supporting us, because that will go towards producing a better show that will cover comic book convention appearances, interviews, and travel. Obviously, the most important thing, maintaining the website. All of that stuff comes out of our own pockets, and it's pretty expensive. So keeping that stuff up and running for you guys, and obviously we appreciate everyone who supports by following, listening, watching. But obviously, some the finances get in the way. Obviously, we're not trying to nickel and dime you, but that stuff is important in the long run. But anyway, I feel like I'm rambling on at this point with the whole podcast thing just a little bit. But yeah, we're gonna leave it at that. You guys take that information and soak it in and do. Hopefully you guys support that decision that we're embarking on. But yeah, we're gonna get into Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. There's a lot to dive into when it comes to this movie. Once again, a courtesy spoiler warning for those who have not watched the movie. So if you have not watched the movie, give us a like, subscribe, turn on the bell notifications, watch the movie, come back, listen to our spoiler thoughts on this movie. So since I rambled on for like 10, 15 minutes at this point, I'm gonna let one of you guys take over for Black Panther: Wakanda Forever and kind of take us away. Who wants to take the reins?
Ooh, honestly, all of us have some like monologues to say, I'm sure. I'll take it. I'll take it here. So this is just what, like just overall thoughts, I guess. Like, this is how we're gonna hit it.
I guess we can go around the room and give our overall thoughts, and then we can kind of dive into specific talking points and things like that. There's a lot to dive into, I feel like.
Yeah, there's we're gonna touch base on everything at one point or another. But what it comes down to, beautiful film. I thought they did an amazing job. I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of it. Obviously, the only thing that could have made it better is if Chadwick Boseman was with us still and could have portrayed his his character of Black Panther, and but it was still very enjoyable. I thought Namor totally stole the show. He was a big piece. I really loved how they brought him into the world. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, what I mean? I'm like, bringing in culture and other lore into the mix and everything. I was like, that's very well done. I've read up on some of their, like, the mythology there, and of course there's not much to go on. It's hard, so it's like they have a huge playground to go with. Now overall with everything, we have like the bullet point, when it came to honoring Chadwick Boseman, they did a beautiful job. I'm surprised I didn't cry, you know what I mean? But I guess it was that feeling of like, I'm like, thank you guys. I was like, you guys did well. It was just a good feeling, and obviously a moment of like remembrance. And I think that's what they did well. They honored him so well. And I'm not mad. I'm not mad at certain choices they made. The movie flowed well. I don't feel like, obviously there were certain moments I could probably nitpick at. But I think as an overall film, I think they did a good job. They definitely took little pieces from, the comics and everything like that to, kind of fill in Shuri's story side of the story for this movie. And, they kind of give us that type of scenario. And, and they gave us a lot more than what I was expecting. And you know, it was fun. It was a fun watch, but it was emotionally driven. Like this thing was powerful every step of the way. There was, you know, everything. Like there was not a moment that, you know, you didn't feel like there's weight here. There's a lot of weight. There's a legacy behind this right now. And, you know, shout out to again Chadwick Boseman for setting such a precedence that, you know what I mean? You don't want to know a world without him as Black Panther. And, you know, like, but knowing that we had moves to make, and this movie needed to be made for him and for, you know, the fans, couldn't be happier. You know what I mean? You know, and I'll stop from there, because like I said, we'll get into like the little details of characters
Right.
and all that kind of stuff going in, but a beautiful movie. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great. After you, Boozer.
Boozer, what you got? What you
I
got?
guess it's me. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm gonna probably repeat a lot of the same things.
As you should.
The beginning, bro. That, you know, again, spoilers, like the beginning just opening up with, Shuri trying to like cure her brother and just not being able to. That like, I mean, for any like brilliant mind, that is like going to be the most like insane thing in their head, that like, why can't I do it? Like, you know what I mean? I could do all these amazing things. I can come up with all these crazy inventions, but I can't solve this one riddle. Like that's got to be just like infuriating for someone with like such a mind like that. And, for that to be your family. So like, it just, when people say like, a lot of Marvel movies don't have a lot of weight, like this movie had weight. We lost a character, like a huge character in this universe. And I mean, I'm sure in some worlds, like, there are times where, like, you have people like, oh, they should have recasted. We could have gotten this. We could have gotten that. Yeah, like, yeah, I understand that. But, like, man, like, this movie did an amazing job at both being a tribute to, Chadwick, and also being a tribute to Black Panther, with it, like, out in the real world and in the in world. Because that character, especially to Wakanda, was like, there was just so much weight in losing that. And I think, like, the funeral scene, man, they did such a good job with that. Like that felt like a real culture. Like that they really, like, that ceremony really existed. Like it just felt like they really flushed that out, and like you felt their pain and celebration at the same time. And man, the MCU has really been putting the hurt on Wakanda, man. Like seriously, like they, like, if you look, like, between losing, what was it, T'Chaka,
Prince
his
T'Chaka,
dad,
yeah,
yeah, King
T'Chaka in Civil
T'Chaka
War.
in Civil War,
Yeah.
like, and then the takeover,
Mhm.
and and then, like, and now we're losing, and then we eventually lose, which we'll get into when we lose another one.
Mhm.
The MCU gets hit hard, and I just, like, you feel that emotional, like you feel like that emotion that Wakanda's going through. And I love, like, the parallels that they went throughout the movie with, like, they whisper that we have no protector, and that they're dealing with that their new place in the world. I just think they did so well. And, like, I was a little worried, like I was, like, kind of confused how they were going to introduce Riri, because it seemed like there was going to be a lot going on. I think it made pretty good sense, and I enjoyed the actress that played Riri. And yeah, just overall, like, I enjoyed a lot of the action scenes. um CG, for the most part, I think, was pretty good. There were some scenes where the background looked a little weird, because, like, you can tell that, obviously, like, I mean, these are fictional lands, both,
Right.
underwater and above water. They're fictional lands, so they're gonna have to utilize CG, a lot of CG. But I think they just did such a good job. Namor, I think, I think the actor as well did an amazing job as Namor. And I think everything just felt fleshed out. What was the world called again? I keep forgetting.
Talokan.
Talokan. The thing I loved about that is, aside from, like, the pseudo realism, because, like, obviously this is all superhero stuff, so I don't ever expect, like, realism. But, like, them being so deep underwater, it would make sense that it would be dark and not have light, and that they created their own sun. I just loved the idea of what they did with, like, their access to vibranium and stuff like that. I thought his origin and how those people got underwater was very interesting as well. It was very new, it was very fresh. We want new and fresh things. And then, the conflict, I think they did a good job, and, like, how they wrapped everything up, and the end, and that post-credit scene. Boy, that whole movie,
The
that whole
mid-credit
movie hit that
scene,
heart.
the mid credit scene is what broke me at the end.
Yeah, man.
It's
Yeah,
twice,
that yeah.
both viewings. I'm not even gonna, even at the press screening. I'm there at the press screening, and I'm sitting with somebody else from the press. I don't even know what outlet they were from. The credits roll. We're both looking at you. You go with it? Yeah, we're good. That got me. I
Yeah,
was pretty good for the most part. For the most part, but
so
that
I
got
do
me.
not I like pretty much just do not cry. And for some reason that end credit scene got me one tear. One tear.
That's
And I was
Bro,
awesome.
like,
like I felt
hit
that in
me.
my soul. Like I literally want to bawl my eyes out right now. But then again,
Yeah.
I feel like the build up to that, and this is just to me to kind of get into my own thoughts about it. I felt like there was a lot of emotional build up towards that revelation.
Yeah.
Even though obviously maybe a lot of people saw it coming, maybe some people didn't.
I didn't see the
Oh,
kid
I
coming.
didn't.
I didn't see
I
the
did
kid.
not. I did
Well,
not
I
think.
know
I did not see
spoilers,
that
so
coming.
I knew it was coming. I just wanted to know how we got to that point.
Yeah.
But I felt like the build up, the emotional roller coaster that we went to, like you guys can mention, there was emotional weight from the start all the way up until the credits rolled. So getting that revelation at the end, I was just like, yeah, no, that's it. You guys broke the hard shell that I put up throughout these past near 3 hours, and I'm like a sobbing mess right now. But I really, really, excuse me, I really enjoyed Wakanda Forever. I think they handled everything as best as they could. I think Ryan Coogler handled this is just a daunting task to write an entire sequel, have your lead actor, die on his untimely passing, during pre-production, and then having to kind of go back and rewrite for the most part major plot points of the movie, if not every single major plot point of the movie, and still deliver a story that has deep character development, emotional weight, the introduction of one new anti-villain, a new hero, and being able to kind of mesh all that, and then also setting up other things for the upcoming titles in the MCU. That is a task. That
Well,
is
again,
a massive task.
no, agreed that Ryan Coogler deserves so much credit and everything, but remember, he wasn't the only one writing for it,
No, I
including
know.
with Black Panther. Joe Robert Cole,
Joe Robert Cole
did a
also
lot of
helped with
the
that.
hard. Yeah, they both did, and mind you,
Listen,
I think
credit to
credited there,
everyone,
credit
to
everywhere.
literally every single person who
Yeah.
worked on this film, because
Yeah.
to be able to film a movie like this with such grief, and real world grief, not just in the movie, from a storytelling standpoint, but also a real world grief, to kind of go through those motions as you're, filming this movie. I think that was a task for, especially the main cast from the first movie, to kind of come back and kind of deal with that while you're filming, and then implementing that loss into the story of the movie.
Yep.
Listen, a performance is all around. Angela Bassett, bro.
Oh yeah, she was a highlight.
Chills, bro. If this was a fucking clinic of acting, of a performance, the emotional weight behind every single word that she uttered in this film, I was just blown away. Listen, granted, we've seen Angela Bassett in a number of projects throughout our 30 years of living, but this performance had so much emotional weight behind it. It was truly powerful, captivating. Everything about it. Namor was super, super dope. Tenoch Huerta just absolutely killed it. I love that he kept the accent. His origin, how obviously confirming that he is the first mutant in the MCU, that was super, super dope. The real world, the Spaniards colonialism and colonization, in Latin America, enslavement, and how his people were able to, in a way, overcome that and all that stuff. And, finding, I would say, the breath of fresh air throughout that adversity, having to deal with smallpox and all that. So, it's real world stuff that, the indigenous people of Latin America and the Caribbean had to deal with. But yeah, everything was great, from start to finish. Obviously, I do have minor nitpicks, obviously CGI stuff, but I try not to harp too much on the CGI stuff, because listen, you can only do so much. You know what I'm saying? Like, if it looks horrendous and I'm just like, okay, this is jarring, you're taking away from my experience, if it's Superman, CGI mustache situation, then okay, I'll complain about the CGI.
Yeah.
But if it's like little things like, okay, I can tell this is a fake background, whatever. I know this world is not real. I'm not gonna harp on that.
If I'm not bothered while I'm watching,
exactly, it's not. I'm not
you
gonna.
know.
I'm not gonna really nitpick. There were some moments that were, I mean, a little underwhelming. It didn't quite work for me, but nothing that really took me out of the movie for the most part. I mean, listen, even Letitia Wright, despite all the public backlash she was facing while filming this movie, granted, she also got injured severely
Mhm.
Oh
while
yeah.
filming this movie. But even her performance was just like, I was like,
She did
wow,
great.
like she did great. She channeled all those emotions. The Riri, listen, with Riri, I was okay with the introduction. My only complaint there is making her another America Chavez, where she's the MacGuffin. She needs to be saved, and she's like the plot device.
Yeah.
I would have hoped for a much better introduction to the character in terms of, I mean, listen, granted, I know you want to push, you need something to kind of get the conflict, to incite some sort of conflict between Talokan and Wakanda.
Yeah, like you need something to make
I just feel
those
like
two
I
fight.
just don't want I don't want the MCU to kind of continue introducing the younger characters
I got
as
you, yeah.
plot devices for the older characters. You know what I mean?
Well, if you
Like,
think about it, though, like
we
when
got that a little bit with Hawkeye, with Kate Bishop and Hawkeye. We got that in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, and then we got it again with
But even,
with Riri
at the end of the day,
Williams.
though, like, isn't that like
that's
in the
kids,
comics,
though.
most of the younger kids end up that is the way. Like,
Yeah.
that's how
Because
Batman gets all his Robins. Like they're
does, yeah.
troublemakers that technically like need
Yeah.
saving, whether they like it or
Exactly.
not, or whether they have to be
Well,
saved from
here,
something, or
and it's not
they're
even
getting to that
necessarily,
point.
yeah, and it's not necessarily that they need saving. It's that they're doing something their way, and that's like the new generation. The new generation is always going to do something against the status
Yeah.
quo. The older generation is always going to feel some type of way. She did a fucking class project, and they took it, ran with it to find vibranium. She didn't know that shit.
Yeah.
And so like it's just like it was like the worst case scenario for her, because she's like, they just asked me to do a project and I figured it out. I just want to go to my fucking my fucking what's it called, my garage,
Whatever. Yeah.
And I want to go to my garage and fucking finish my fucking Iron Man suit. Like, what the fuck? I didn't want to look for vibranium.
And I do get what you're saying about the Chavez thing, but I do like the I like the parallels between, like, in Iron Man 1, Tony Stark realized how much of his weapons were being used by the enemy. How many of his weapons were being, sold to and used by the enemy that those weapons are supposed to be fighting, and how people misuse things. I mean, even Obadiah Stane, how he was gonna use weapons and stuff like that, and the things he was doing to get that power. And the same thing with her. Like, she didn't think that thing would be used for anything that would cause harm, and it did. And that's the tough thing with technology. That could have just been like, stuff can just be a tool in a different set of hands. It could be bad. And it's interesting that parallel.
That's like my only complaint. I feel like comparing her to America Chavez, I feel she was better utilized in this movie,
I do too,
as opposed to how America Chavez was utilized in Multiverse of Madness. But we're
and
not
remember, they
focusing.
didn't make it as her being the solution to everything. She was just there to show that she had worth. You know what I mean? There's a reason why she's there.
She could help.
You know what I mean? She could help in her own way. She built her own vibranium suit, which that's one of my things. Honestly, I'm not a fan of her vibranium suit.
I wasn't a fan of that suit. I actually like her. I hope they're just waiting to, like, I guess her show to give her like her more slimmed down suit.
And that's what.
Well, the wings were weird. Like,
they were a little
thrusters.
over. Yeah, they were a little overcompensating, I feel like.
Yeah, a lot of people kept saying Power Rangers, but it felt way more like Transformers.
Even Gundam, I heard.
Kind of. It felt more like Transformers.
It was just too bulky for no reason. For it being vibranium should never been that bulky for me. But but again, I think like back to how we're saying, I think the who was cast as Riri, she was fun. She
Yeah,
kept it
Dominic
light.
Thorne
You know what I
was
mean?
super fun. Yeah, I
Yeah,
enjoyed
and
him.
I love that first scene that she's in. I thought it was cute. I was, I was enamored by those three, like, you know what I mean, Okoye
Yeah.
and
Listen,
Sherry and
that
them.
scene
I
to
love
me
that
was
scene. It
was
was
great.
great.
That
Yeah, I
scene
enjoyed
was
that scene.
fucking amazing.
You
The
know?
jokes in that scene
Mhm.
landed. They didn't feel out of place. They didn't feel
Yes.
forced. And obviously,
Mhm.
the MCU has a tendency of giving you the jokey when there's a
Mhm.
super emotional scene going on. And I'm
Yes.
glad this movie steered away from
Yeah,
giving
this is like
jokey.
the best they've done in a long time with
Mhm.
like
Exactly. With the
probably. I mean, I
jokes.
don't like. I'm trying to even remember, but like this is probably the best they've ever done with like giving you weighted scenes and not jumping
And then
instantly into a
yeah,
joke.
exactly.
And it felt
Exactly.
like the jokes that had the joking scenes had enough appropriate time from the last like deeper
Yes.
moment to be like, okay, I kind of want some levity now, because like you
Yes.
don't, no one just wants a dark deep movie. I mean, you can
Mhm.
Yeah.
get that, but
You
Yeah.
you
it's a
were able to
superhero movie. You want to have,
digest.
you
Yeah,
want
you
to
were
have
able
some
to
hope, you want
digest
to have
that.
some levity in those things, because that's what superheroes do. They're there to
Yeah.
bring you, to save you
The
and to help
last
you and
time
to
I
give
want
you
to
hope.
say, last time I want to say that we've seen that was as early as Civil War and also, the Infinity Wars. Like those
Yeah,
two,
okay, yeah,
like
I
those
agree.
three
They had
movies were
some
the
good
only ones that they
moments where
kept
they
like
waited.
a
Yeah.
exactly like they didn't hit joke for joke, joke for joke. Like, hey,
Exactly.
And shows like
here's
Daredevil and stuff like
seriousness.
that. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Well, but those don't count. Remember, they weren't
Yeah.
technically the MCU
They
yet,
Right,
weren't, yeah.
right.
so but
Yeah,
like
but
yeah,
But yeah,
that's one
this
thing.
movie did
That's
a
one
great
thing I
job.
can applaud. I can applaud
Mhm.
that for them not leaning too heavily into the jokey. Yeah, we got the
Mhm.
jokes and it worked or whatever, but everything felt appropriate. You got the
Yeah.
jokes. You got time to digest those emotional scenes. Even shit when Queen Ramonda gets killed by Namor, like you were able.
I was
Yeah.
not
The,
expecting that finally in the
I
fight
wasn't
yeah, I
scene.
expecting
was
that
not
either.
expecting
I
that
wasn't
either, but
expecting it.
Because
you
again,
were given time to
Wakanda's
let that.
Wakanda's getting put through the ringer. Like they just buried
Yo,
the son not too long, a year ago.
Namor in this movie was literally the epitome of fuck around and find out.
Find out. I told you what I
Fuck
would do.
around and
I told
find
you what I
out.
would do.
And he was cold with it too. The fact that he's like, yo, bury your dead, mourn your loss.
Uh-huh.
You're the queen
I'll be
now. I
back.
was like, come on. And you got a week before I return. You got a week
Yeah.
before I return. I'm like, Namor, you didn't have to do him like that. These people are mourning right now. You didn't have to do him like that.
Yo, and he straight up was gonna slide right through her with a spear.
Yeah.
He
Well,
had no problem just
side note,
flanking
side
her.
note, side note. If only they just threw a little bit of blood stain on that spear. That spear
I know.
had
I hear you.
no
I know.
reason to be so clean when she
I'm gonna be
stabbed
honest.
Honestly,
My
fucking
I
Disney.
never
That's what
noticed.
I get
Well,
so mad about
people
Disney.
pointed it out after the fact that like the spear didn't have
Yeah.
any blood.
Yeah.
I never noticed. Like
It's
while
always,
watching,
yeah.
I
It's a
did
Disney
not
even with the
notice.
Dora
It's,
Milaje,
yeah.
if you notice, they avoided using the pointed tips
Yeah,
of
they
the
were.
spear.
Well, at least when they were fighting, we're talking about like when they were
In the
fighting the
beginning?
humans,
Yeah, but I feel
Yeah, in the
like
because
beginning
they
they did it
needed to
on
capture, because they
purpose.
wanted to capture
yeah,
them
I was looking
to
back and I was like,
like
yeah, they
parade
probably
them
did
in
on
front of the
purpose.
UN.
Yeah, exactly. They didn't want
Yeah.
to, have blood on their hands because
Mhm.
these
Because the whole point is
are
that
foreigners.
they were the ones not killing, but
Yes.
then they were hearing the stories of
Them
the
killing
Moors people, and
Wakandians
they
and
were
the
killing people.
yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it was like that's the only reason why they were able to kind of like, well, now necessarily they are still in the crosshairs because they're keeping Namor's secret. You know what I mean? They're
Right.
like, we'll take the backlash, we'll write it out,
Yeah.
and all that kind of stuff.
One thing I
Yeah.
also was like, I mean, I could have done what that was the whole Agent Ross thing, the whole side
Yeah.
plot. Listen, and I get it. It worked. He was helping the Wakandans. He
Mhm.
owes them a debt for saving his life. During the events of the 1st
Mhm.
movie. Blah blah. I get it, but obviously that's all Thunderbolt setup. I could have done
Yeah.
without that. I
Yeah.
could have.
Mhm.
You could have held off and give me that and like something else. Like I
I
could have
think
waited
I
for
think
that.
well, that's the thing. Now he might be in the Thunderbolts movie. He might, make his
Oh, he's definitely
cameos
in the
there.
Thunderbolts movie.
Yeah, and I
Definitely.
think in a way, I think it was
Mhm.
kind of needed to like, because he was the perspective of like us of pretty much knowing what the perception was of who's killing
The
who and what's
US.
doing what,
Mhm.
like the US's
Mhm.
perspective of like what's going
Mhm.
on, because I'm sure that will continue to play on in some other movies and shows, the conflict with countries and again more dealing with superheroes. You know what I mean? Like, the Sokovia Accords and stuff like that. Like,
Mhm.
I feel like he kind of was needed for us to get a perspective of like the perception that is being happening from these events happening. especially happening in like secluded lands that no one has access to.
Yeah.
Because
And
if
he had a
like
horse in the race, too.
if he didn't exist,
Mhm.
I mean, I guess we wouldn't have any idea of like what is happening outside of these two secluded things.
No, agreed. I think
Yeah.
he was definitely needed. I loved his scenes. You know what I mean? And of course, like his ex-wife is Thunderbolt. So
I didn't see that
like,
coming.
I was
I didn't
like,
see that coming.
Yeah, I didn't see that
I was like,
coming
where
either.
the
And the
fuck
fact
did
that they
that
have
come from?
kids too.
A lot
The
of
fact that they have
people
kids too.
a lot of people were saying they don't buy her as a character. I
She's-
do. I buy her for like we know she's not good.
Yeah.
Like I buy her for
Yeah.
like when he was like, what would America do if we had that stuff? And she was like, oh, I dreamed for that day. And I was like, I'm sure there's someone out there just like
Oh,
that
for sure.
in a power
Plenty.
position.
No,
in a
because that's the whole
position of
point.
power right now.
That's exactly what any like US agent and any of this sort would be doing. Like, because they're like, okay, the thing about it, America is used to being the big gun in the world. That's as simple as that. So
absolutely,
them knowing there's someone technically can
there's a bigger gun out there.
No,
they now want to make a bigger gun.
Yeah, it's as simple as that. They're like, because
they don't shy away from making that a point. Yeah, in that beginning, in that opening scene, is like, listen, your vibranium is undetectable by all known metal detectors. What's to stop y'all from becoming, agents of mass destruction? It's like Angela Bassett said, listen,
this is just our way.
Ramonda said, we're not sharing because you shouldn't be concerned about what we're doing with vibranium. Because if we wanted to,
because we've had it the whole time.
We've had it for centuries.
Yeah, we could have did something.
We could have done it.
Something.
What will you do with all this vibranium in your hands? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, do we know what kind? Was it the U.S. or I don't know what country were the soldiers that got paraded in?
French. They were French.
Was it? It was French.
They were the French, and it was a joint task force that got killed by Namor's people from CIA and FBI or something like that. So that's all US still.
Yeah, so that was the one that was just doing the mining, and then the ones that were actually trying to like steal the stuff was the French. Okay, gotcha. Which, by the way, that whole scene was a boss ass move. Like that whole scene when she walked in, and then all the people that walked in with her just put the mics down. Like they ain't speaking. There's only one voice here. And then when she just like paraded them and was like, you lucky they alive.
pretty much. Pretty much. Even the threat afterwards. Like,
the threat,
if you guys kind of come hunting,
you guys come at me again.
You guys definitely
fuck around, find out.
Yeah, fuck around and find out.
That was her fuck around, find out.
The more you fuck around,
the more you about to find out.
The more you about to find out.
I think it was.
But
there was
a lot of good stuff in here, man. I don't know if you guys noticed, but there were some obviously rumors about a scrap Doctor Doom cameo and things.
Didn't
like
hear that.
Yeah, I heard about that.
I don't know. Yeah, that was just fan rumors, but there were, I don't know if you guys picked it up, there were some sort of nod to Doctor Doom, and he had obviously Agent Ross was kind of, is it a country that we already have on our radar we're kind of looking into? I don't know if you guys kind of picked that up a little bit.
Oh, well, that's very subtle. Like, I wish he was like, does it start with an L? I wish he said something like that. It might have made it a little bit more obvious.
I feel like maybe Marvel is doing a little bit of the Thanos treatment with Doctor Doom. Kind of, sprinkle him a little bit in the background, maybe a couple hints here, vague hints.
I think they're so far. I think Fantastic Four and mutant stuff is so far out. I feel like they're just taking it easy at the moment because they're probably still trying to like fine tune the direction of where they want it, how they would, because they have to figure out how to truly add. Because like either mutants, like I don't know how I truly don't know how they add the mutants that we know. Like, a lot of people are like, oh, Namor is 500 years old. We can easily have Magneto be 500, several very, very old. And like, I can't be like, he could be a mutant that just has some de-aging ability as part of like also his like, magnet abilities. But the tough thing is like, how do you, the toughest thing for having any character already exist, and I think Namor was very well, is where were they when all this other shit, when like the planet was at risk of, you know what I mean? Like, even if you're not one to get into things, like if the planet's about to get destroyed, you should probably like show up and help.
Well, it's kind of like with remember with the Doctor Strange, not the with Doctor Strange's teacher. No,
Doctor
so in Infinity War, I mean in an Endgame, she's just protecting the Sanctum. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So it's like she was around, but she was like, I'm only taking care of my home because
Yeah.
this has
Same
nothing
thing,
to do
and same
with
thing
me.
with Namor, which
You know
makes
what I mean?
sense.
So
He doesn't want to
mhm,
risk, getting his people find out. So he's just going to protect his
mhm.
home. He's not going to
Yep.
go out of his way to like, and he might not even, being underwater for the majority of his time. They might not even know what the fuck is going on,
Mhm. Oh
upstairs.
yeah, for the most
So
part, yeah.
his
Mhm.
seclusion makes way more sense. I feel like introducing any mutants that say have already been existing, unless there's like a paradox event that like merges worlds together or something like that, it'll be very difficult to explain what they were doing, especially if they're a very powerful mutant like Magneto. So I'm sure there's probably a way to write it in. And I would like him to have like his like Holocaust connection and stuff like that, but it'll be difficult. Like I definitely think it'll be difficult introducing any mutants
Yeah.
that like
So
live on land that have been around for a while.
yeah,
It'll be pretty
yeah.
hard.
The easiest one is obviously Wolverine. Besides him, I would say I want to go back to Namor because I was like, the only thing they can say is that his mutation was literally pointy ears and the wings on his feet, right? Because in this case, well, how they're building it is that he was born with getting the vibranium like from the the plant that his mother
Yeah.
ingested that gave them ability to breathe underwater. Like that's how he was able to be born that way. Like
Yeah.
he was already the first generation that got in that way, and simple as that. So no matter how many, because now they already showed Namor's kids, they don't have the same mutation as him. They're just normal, normal citizens of that world, because that's the reason why their skin is blue when they get out.
Yeah.
He's the only one that's able to he has best of both worlds
Correct.
somehow,
Mhm.
so that's the mutation. The mutation for
Yeah.
him is that literally he got wings and
Yep.
pointy ears. He doesn't change colors. Yeah.
And he can
Like when he's
breathe
whatever.
without gills.
Yeah,
He can absorb
mhm,
the oxygen through his skin,
exactly. So it's like, that's his main mutation,
which
but
is a
he
thing,
was
by the
already
way.
supposed to go through. Which part? What, mutations? Through?
Absorbing oxygen through just your body.
Well, yeah, like
Yeah, there's
fish
like
do
a
it.
there's a
They do it through the water
spider.
particles.
There's a spider that has no lungs, and it's like organs are in its legs. It's like a sea spider, and
Mm.
yeah, it just absorbs oxygen
Oh, that's cool.
from the
There's an
water.
Audible book actually that does something similar for an alien race. I'll talk about it later.
Mm.
But shout out by the way to like the first like portion of his tribe and his mother and all that kind of stuff, because they needed to put in a lot of work to make their civilization. You know how many
Yeah,
people had to be born through that first like
Yo,
dozen people? They
yeah,
put
yo,
it down underwater. I'm just saying that was Little Mermaid times 20. Like I don't know
yo, for
how
real.
the hell they made that many kids in that span of 500 years. I'm just throwing it out there. I'm like, there was a lot of incest happening. I'm just throwing it out there. Unfortunately, this
For
is Game of
sure.
Thrones.
They Game of Thrones it all the way.
let's just say the
Forget
plant
it.
made sure that there was no bad mutations.
They still turn blue. As long as they turn
They
blue,
still
they're
turn blue.
fine.
I mean, the
I
interesting
had to
thing
bring it
they
up. I'm
weren't
sorry.
they
That's
weren't
funny.
all blue.
Yeah.
Obviously, when we go through they weren't all blue.
They
Maybe
were
that's a
they
different.
were
Underwater.
normal when they were underwater.
Underwater, they're normal color.
Yeah.
Are they? No, I
Outside,
thought
Yep.
no, I thought Namora was still blue under the.
Namor
None
is
of
the
them were
only one
blue.
that stays color. It stays his same shade. When they get out of water, everyone
They turn
else
blue.
turn blue because they need
Yep.
water to survive. So, but when they're in the
Interesting.
Yeah.
water, they're
Maybe
If
I
normal.
you
didn't pick
remember,
that up.
if you remember the speech at the end when he
Mhm.
was talking to, what was that? Was that his
Namora?
daughter?
No,
It was his
that's his
daughter.
baby. Who, Namora?
Yeah, Namora is his daughter in this one. He was like he was like, my daughter. Like, this is why I'm okay with this.
Um,
Yeah, that was his daughter.
she was normal skin tone
Mhm.
in that scene. She was not blue, which had me confused for a second. But I was like, oh shit,
No,
because like I saw like the people as well, and I was like,
No,
wait,
she was
are there
still
some
blue.
no,
people that are blue?
that scene, she was blue because they were in his little cave outside in the
Oh,
water.
yeah, never mind.
Yeah.
You're right, because
Yeah,
she was above that.
but
Yeah.
the scene when they're going to war
Oh
in
yeah, when
that
they were
scene,
calling the people,
so
Right. Matter of
everybody's the
they
same
fact,
were all
color.
matter of
normal.
fact,
Yeah,
yeah, I
Everybody's the same
remember
color.
now. Cause yeah, right before they were
yeah,
going to
that's what I was
war,
thinking.
and Atuma and Namora go
Mhm,
to him and tell him, "Listen, there's
Yep,
another machine
mhm.
looking for vibranium underwater." Now I remember, yeah, they were
and they
both
weren't that
regular
blue.
skin tone. They weren't
Yep.
blue at all. You're right. You're right. You're right. Look at that. See, this is why
Little
we have
things.
more than one
It's
person.
little
Little
shit. It's
things.
just little shit. Like
Also,
Listen, but that's
I
an important
love
detail. That's an important detail there.
I
You know
love
what I
that
mean?
little Kamehameha.
Bro,
the
Did
shark's
anyone
teeth,
else think
man.
that?
Shark
Was
teeth.
anyone else
Shark
thinking
teeth.
like, ah?
as soon
No. I think this is pretty. I was like, it's pretty, but then like the moment that I saw him near his like throne, I was like, oh, shark teeth, I get it, You
Also,
know what I mean?
one thing I want to know, like, did they? Because like in Wakanda, it's like super advanced technology. Like we know that. And like
Mhm.
really the only like mystical thing is the heart-shaped fruit that gives the
Heart
panther.
shape herb.
That's really like the only like thing that's like not, and that's still like science-based, but that's like kind of like magical in a sense of way. But when it comes to like, under in Telecon, um
Mhm.
what was that technology? Like it looked like stone, and he just puts his hands in, and then a current is like a current tunnel. And I'm like, is that technology? Like, how was that made? Like, how did they do some of those things? Like,
I want to say a lot of it was
I'm
actually
so
magic
confused about
based.
like, is it magic based? Like,
I
what do they
want to
have
That's what
down
I was
there?
thinking too. That's what I was
Like,
because
thinking
what
too.
are
They
they
had to have
use?
some sort of magic base
Like, what created? Like,
influence
how
in
did they
there.
create
Mhm.
that sun? Like, they don't have electricity down there.
Well, they have
So, like,
vibranium. They
they
have
have
vibranium.
vibranium, which is
Okay.
insanely hard, as we know.
Mhm.
How did they use it? How
The
did they?
pressure in the sun, the pressure of the depths, probably,
Yeah,
right?
I
Like, and
guess.
they're
Yeah,
also super strong because you could see like what they did what like the original Wakandans did. They once they learned how to like like to actually use it during their smithing, you know what I
yeah,
mean? Then like forge it into something. They did the same thing down there, but they kept it very simple. They kept their
yeah,
ways exactly the same because they didn't need to advance. You know what I mean? They're underwater. They had, remember, the shield was still a turtle shell. And
yeah.
then it's like, but they probably put vibranium in it. Like, and
Yeah.
that's all they
I
needed to do.
guess
They were
my
like, we're
brain is
good.
just very confused how they forge metal
Mhm.
objects
Mhm.
underwater without fire.
Well,
That's
hey, oh
that's
no,
where my
that's not
brain is
true.
going.
No, dude.
What?
Remember, there's geysers in the freaking ocean.
Okay, yeah, you
Yeah.
have
There's
you have
volcanic,
lava.
there's a
You have the
lava and all
volcanic
that.
lava. That gets
You
hot
can
as
build
hell.
shit that way. You know
I
what I mean?
guess.
All I know. So,
Yeah.
but I think
Valid point.
they are a civilization that has advanced in their faith more than what they did with technology. Because think about it, they had their deity, just like they had Bas
Yeah.
in Wakanda, but with up there they saw a different, like, well, different like branches. They saw technology from another way and how
Hmm.
they can advance with vibranium. They saw
Mhm.
vibranium as like, okay, we can make our cups out of this shit, all good,
Yeah.
whatever. But like everything else we got from our deity. This is the reason why we can breathe underwater and they need suits.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how I looked at it. I was like, this is like
No,
the path it would
he
be.
frames it. Namor frames
Mhm.
it that way anyway. Like,
Mhm.
this was a gift from our deity at the time. This is not just. I
Mhm.
mean, this is not something that we went out of our way to kind of look for. We were on the
Mhm.
brink of literally extinction,
Extinction. Yeah.
and we
Mhm.
prayed to the gods to find a way for our salvation, and that's what we got. So yeah, it was more
Mhm.
spiritual than it was technological in terms of
Oh,
advancement.
Oh, that
and
also
I
kind of. Well, I'm sorry
what
to jump in real
what
quick.
you gonna say? What you gonna
That
do?
all that also brings in what gods were they? That kind of shows. I guess those gods are also exist.
Oh yeah,
We already
well,
yeah,
we
because
saw
Oh
them.
yeah,
yeah.
We saw them. Remember? In
Oh
well,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
unfortunately, we saw them
and
in
Thor: Love and
Love and
Thunder.
Thunder.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Well,
I'm sorry, I rolled
I
my
just,
eye
oh, I
once
wonder if we
No,
actually,
no, I
but
think
we
it
saw
deserves
them.
to.
We
yeah,
saw them.
It
yeah.
Yeah,
deserves.
yeah, we
But
saw them.
it's just, it's so interesting, like
Mhm.
how,
Mhm.
hey, they really, he
Mhm.
really did get an answer from the gods.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, well, he got it from the rain god.
Oh,
I
okay.
saw
It
a
was the rain
clip and
god, right?
everything.
Yeah.
It was the rain god of theirs, but
Mhm.
they called him the
Hmm.
serpent god, which we
Yes.
saw the serpent god in the Hall of Gods, whatever. But we didn't see the rain god over there, unless we did and we
Right.
just didn't notice it.
Yeah.
But
There were a
yeah,
shit ton of gods in that
yeah, exactly.
that hall of gods.
Mhm.
They really didn't spend too much time kind of highlighting every
Yeah.
single one. So
Exactly, yeah.
I
But like
mean,
one thing
listen,
I do like, do you remember the thing that Claw says? You know what I mean? They were looking for El Dorado and in the wrong place. They thought
mhm.
they didn't look in Africa. They looked in the like Mexico and all that kind of
Hmm.
stuff in South America and all that kind of stuff. But then if you remember the moment that the sun came up in his place, it turned to gold. So, he still had the city of gold. It was around there. It was just in the ocean and no one
It
could find
was.
it this way. So I was like, I thought that was also like a nice little like parallel that what like they did with Claw and everything like that. Yeah, vibranium is technically was the gold they were looking for,
Hmm.
but there was that city of gold that they destroyed, but it was built after they fucked everything up
Yeah.
and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. So I thought it was awesome. I thought it was
I
fun.
mean, listen, honestly, everything with Namor was super, super dope. Even given his name,
Mhm.
it's some actual
Yeah.
meaning. Like, it's
Oh,
not just,
yeah.
oh, well, my name is just Namor. That's what I was
Mhm.
named. Like, no, like, I took it upon myself based on what happened after I went back to the surface world, and Niño Sin Amor just call me Namor. I mean, I was like, yo,
Yeah.
Marvel.
See,
Like,
that's a good way to do it compared to how Han Solo got his name. One way not to do it, one way
Oh,
to do
God.
it. Because like
Well,
that,
side
yeah,
note,
like
yeah,
that
go ahead.
felt like again, like and I feel like us knowing like when he like had to bury his mother, his mother and stuff like that.
Mhm.
The thing I liked was like it gives more depth into the reason why he's so callous towards just like being perfectly fine killing this like 19-year-old girl. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because like
mhm.
he's seen so much. He's seen humans just go off on each other. That's what we do. We go to war. We
Mhm.
conquer.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just what we do. There's a lot of good people out there. There's also a lot of bad ones. And
Yeah.
his first experience was getting shot at.
Yeah.
And then he just rolled up like with his wings and was like, "All right, you dead." Like,
Yeah, the
you dead
pose
now.
too. The pose. He's
Yo,
like,
he did his little
Oh my
pose. He did his
God.
little
Yeah.
JoJo pose,
Yeah.
and he
Oh
was
my
like,
God.
"Dead son." And yeah, no, like, but you can understand, like, yes, he's not right for just being like, okay, she's smart, she can make another machine, let's kill
Mhm.
her. But like, it makes sense for him in the sense of like, he doesn't see peaceful solutions anymore. He
Yeah.
doesn't see how that's
right.
possible. So in his mind, he's like, okay, this is a threat. I'm just gonna take it out.
Mhm.
There's no other way around it. Which, by the way, when it comes to smart people, he's gonna have a lot of people to kill. Banner's still out there. There's a lot of smart people out there.
Well, that's the
No one
difference,
tell
though.
him. No one
If
tell
Like,
him.
if he sees them as a threat,
Correct.
yeah.
that will be
Correct.
the key part.
Yeah.
Does he
Yeah.
see this smart person as a threat,
Honestly, no
especially
one
to his own
sees.
people?
Yeah, no. Well, no one really sees the Hulk as a threat anymore. Be real, all right. Nobody sees Banner as a threat. Who is he now? He didn't even know how to fucking build like a vision by himself. He needed Tony Stark to help him, for God's sakes. You know what I
Oof,
mean? Like, come
oof.
on, man. I'm
Go
sorry.
off, go off,
They
man, go
they
off.
ruined
Go
they
ahead,
ruined
go
Hulk for
off.
me, by the way. But like, yeah, like, but that was the whole thing, though. Like, any super intelligent person, think about it. Shuri never needed to look for vibranium, so she
Yeah.
never needed to build something like that and figure it out with fucking parts
Yeah.
from a junkyard and shit. Riri had a project to find minerals and
Yep.
blah blah blah, and she was able to get one that got all the minerals. So it's like, it's like, but then that's the whole thing. It's like there might be plenty of smart people out there, but this is the only person that actually
That
figured it
built
out.
something that's a threat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then who's to know?
Mhm.
Like, and it made it seem like Shuri made it seem like no one was going to be able to reverse engineer that shit. Not
Because it
in
was so
that
cobbled
lifetime.
together.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was like they were like that's what I thought was the most
Mhm.
impressive too with Riri. It was like they were like, okay, she is definitely a genius of her time because she did something not even wanting to do it, and it did it right.
Yeah.
And then it's like they had to use what she gave them, and like if
Right.
they were able to reverse engineer it, they would have made one well
Yeah,
faster
absolutely.
than that point,
Yeah.
So I thought
Because there
it's
was no
some of those
schematics.
cool
She
points. Yeah.
just
Oh
yeah,
yeah, she just made it. She just
yeah.
they were like, it works. It detects it. Like our little piece of
Mhm.
vibranium that we do have, it works and shit. You know what I mean? So, but I thought the interesting part was too, actually, it was pretty far where they found that little piece of it. It was pretty far from
Yeah.
Namor's like capital. So it's like now it makes you pretty much think like you can find it a lot more places than just in a few spots. You know what
Mostly, I
I mean?
mean, obviously, yeah, I mean, it's possible because who knows how many asteroids fell or how many pieces broke off of that. It could have been one asteroid,
Right.
but
Yeah.
pieces
I
could still
feel like,
break off.
yeah, I mean, if it
That's the
broke off in
thing.
the
Yeah.
Atlantic Ocean,
Mhm.
and then
And
landed in Wakanda.
we know how big that asteroid was. Pieces falling
Mhm.
off of that thing. Who knows
Mhm.
how big it was? It might have even been bigger and just
Exactly. I mean,
large
If
pieces
it,
fell
I think
off.
this would be the Marvel's way of maybe down the line introducing the Savage Lands.
that I would hope it's Savage Lands because their stone was like it's still radioactive to certain things type of thing. So it's
Mhm.
like it changes the biology of certain like mutants, for example, they lose their powers when they're in the Savage Lands.
Right.
From my understanding, because if you like you probably seen the same thing, Magneto and Xavier they didn't have their powers when they were stuck in the Savage Lands at that time, like when they got trapped there once before.
Yep.
So it's like the Savage Lands has that reverse effect, just like how Namor's plant gave him the ability to breathe underwater and get super strength and so on and so forth. The heart-shaped herb makes the Black Panther, same thing, super strength and all that,
Yeah.
but not everybody is allowed to have it. You know, which obviously makes it look like, yeah, they'll definitely lose in a all-out battle with them. Like, but I'm not trying to take sides, obviously. But you know what I mean? And then what is it? Yeah, so I like that idea with the Savage Lands, and then I just hope they don't let it happen in Latveria. Like I don't that would ruin Doom for me completely.
You think so though? You don't
Yeah.
think you don't think that vibranium is melted onto his face?
I
And that's
I
how he
can
gets.
see him that happening at the end run, as he gets like how Ultron gets a big chunk of vibranium and is able to make his last suit of armor with that.
By the way,
Like,
speaking of vibranium, the fact that
you
he
know,
had vibranium and we did not get that scene where he vibraniums himself up to make that
Mhm.
final form. Marvel will never forgive you. Sorry.
I do love when
It
she's
was supposed to
like,
be adamantium, I think, right?
I do
I
love
mean,
when she's
theoretically, it's
like,
supposed to be adamantium. But yeah.
I do love when the queen was like, you can't have, you can't have
Oh, AI.
vibranium is here. No, vibranium is here.
Oh,
And then Shuri
yeah.
was like, he's covered in it.
Yeah,
Like, he's
that was
literally
cool.
covered in it.
Yeah, and
Yeah, the
Also,
fact that she was able to just like it, I was thinking, I'm
it
like, does it give
glistens.
does it make? I don't know if it makes like a certain tingling that maybe the Wakandans are able
maybe,
to kind of
yeah,
detect.
I
Maybe it
don't know.
gives off a certain smell.
Or
Because I know
shine or
whenever
something.
or a shine or something, because I know every single time the Dormilaje pick up anything with that's laced with vibranium, it does make a little tinkling sound. It gives off
Yeah.
a little aura an audible aura that makes it a little okay. This is laced with vibranium.
Yeah, honestly,
So,
Shuri probably eaten vibranium just because of the fact that
probably.
she has it in abundance. She works with it every single day. So I'm like, I'm pretty
Probably.
sure she's like, that tastes like vibranium. That's fucking vibranium in the air, like what
Also,
she's wearing.
two quick vibranium things. I loved his like fit, his like armor with like his helmet and his like
Oh yeah.
golden shoulders
Oh,
and like
so
the
good.
half cape type thing.
Mhm.
Fire, absolute fire. He was
The
dripping,
design for
dripping,
Nemo was fire. This is
dripping.
this is one of those characters where obviously every single character that we got in the MCU in live action is not a direct one for one
Yes.
adaptation from
Yeah.
the comic book counterpart, and other times they're an amalgamation of
Yeah.
a bunch of characters into
Or a
that
bunch of
one
designs.
character.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But Namor, they kept, for the most part, they kept his comic book look. You got the
You got the pointy
ears,
ears. You got
you
the
got the
wings.
wings on the ankles, you got the swimming shorts, you know what I mean? You got him bare with the shirt off. Obviously getting a little piece of chest armor or whatever, make him dazzle them all up, give him some gauntlets, whatever. He doesn't have the pitchfork, but he does have the spear. But this one of those changes that are just like, you know what, Marvel, you really outdid yourself in terms of changing. You kept the core
Yeah.
things of the character, but also brought in a fresh take on the character that
Yep.
doesn't that is not, that isn't turned off. It doesn't turn
Yeah.
people away. You know what I mean? It's like, oh wait, I welcome this change. I really like this version of Namor.
It's just such a beautiful blend of the culture. You know what I mean? They brought in a culture that
Oh yeah, absolutely.
is so deep and derived into like, their lore and their history and all that kind of stuff that, it flowed so well, and
including
they
all
did
those like
so
real,
amazing.
like the Mesoamerican, the Aztec, the Mayan influences into
Yes.
Namor's design, into his lore and all that. I'm like Marvel, like I gotta give you that.
It shouldn't have worked so good.
Simple.
And his fighters too.
Shouldn't have.
His fighters too.
Worked. It shouldn't have worked at all.
Yeah.
But the fact that it worked is like, wow, like I really welcome and I really fully 1,000% embrace the change that was done to Namor.
I'm not even mad Atlantis isn't there. I'm
exactly. I was just saying that to
I'm
someone. I was like, listen, like, I'm not one of those people that were like, oh, people would be confused if there was two Atlantises. I think people would be able to separate their minds that this is Marvel and DC. There'd be some super normies that are like, wait, Atlantis? I thought DC had Atlantis. There'd be a couple normies like that. But I think most people would be able to tell them apart. But I feel like, again, like we keep asking for things that are fresh, that are new, for these superhero movies to take chances. And then they're like, listen, instead of giving us another Atlantis that, you know, we keep seeing, you know, we already have Atlantis in DC. Instead of doing something pretty much the same name and just maybe trying to make a different glowy city, they were like,
Right.
let's do something different, add a bit of culture to it, and make it feel. It felt so like Aquaman felt very very glitz, like just really cool, a lot of lights, felt like a really fun, you know, like, you know, spectacle of a world.
Right.
But you know, in this Namor's home, it felt lived in. You know, we got to see the people. The music track that was playing, by the way, was
Oh, bro,
fire.
the
Um,
soundtrack.
soundtrack was fire. But like it just,
Ludwig Göransson has been killing it when it comes to Black Panther, bro.
you saw kids playing, you saw people
Oh my god, they played
selling.
you remember the game, the one with
Yeah.
The Roman game,
yeah, it was like
yo.
bam, like with the hip, like bam.
Like,
I was like, they're playing
oh,
in
shit.
water. I was like,
Like-
I was like, we all know that from El Dorado, by the way. Like, if anybody from this age group knows it from the movie El Dorado, just throwing it out there.
Right.
it just it felt lived in, and like it made sense. Like they're deep underwater, it's not going to be light. They made their own sun, and that also furthers like him being that god. Like he brought the sun to the deep
Well, like
ocean.
you said, I brought the sun to my people.
Yeah, like that's even more like, you know, hyping him up as the god in his people's eyes. So like it just it felt like that was like a people. And I didn't really like every time in, you know, Aquaman, I hella enjoyed Aquaman, but like it just felt like all the times we were ever seeing people was just either in like war council talking about war, fighting, or watching other people fight in that Coliseum. We never really saw people.
Yeah.
You know, in that we really did, not the people of Atlantis. And so it kind of felt empty in that sense. And I feel like, you know, in Black Panther, it did not feel empty. It felt like there's people that'll ride or die for Namor. That's why I'm so happy that they went with this different take, because it gave us something new, gave us something fresh. It felt lived in. It felt like it belonged in that world.
Did you ever see the round tables that they done with Ryan Coogler and like a whole bunch of the writers and all that kind of stuff for Black Panther? Like Black Panther 1. One of the biggest things that he said in most of his scenes, he was like, when they're walking through the city and all that kind of stuff, he was like, we need the people to be eating food.
Yeah.
And they were like, what are you talking about? He was like, if this is anyone else's walking through their town and they're looking at the city, people are going to be eating. He was like, that's what makes it real.
Yeah.
And it's like those subtle moments are like what makes it lived in. It makes it like, hey, this is be a real place. Because guess what? We walk down the streets of Patterson, we're going to be passing all these food carts. We're going to be passing the bodega with all these amazing foods and ham and cheese sandwiches and everything like that. Empanadas over on the other corner. We're going to see these things. We're going to be taking that in. And in these scenes, anytime you go through, they're munching on something from jerk chicken to this or something. And I'm like, it makes it feel natural. You know what I mean? This is a world that we can live in. And I think that's one of the biggest things. Like you said it right now. You're like, you see it as like, I believe this. Yeah.
I believe that society. I believe there's a society in that, you know, Telecon. I believe there's a society there. In Aquaman, I don't know what the society looks like, because all we've ever seen is war council and fighting. So I don't know what Atlantis is like. We just saw like the, you know, the little pods that they you know, drive in, and the kind of like city from outward perspective.
Look, I can tell you right now,
it feels empty.
Yeah, Atlantis is bougie. I'll just tell you that. All right, don't worry about it. You're not missing much.
You're not missing much.
Too high housing prices.
Exactly.
Housing costs
right
too
now,
high.
the real estate is horrible.
Taxes is insane in Atlantis, bro.
Listen, man, you gotta be super rich to be living in that.
Bro, I had an apartment, and there was this glow jellyfish that was outside the window, and it never left. It just always stayed there. So I just could never get to sleep. Just nonstop neon blue lights.
Unless they were Daredevil, they were never going to buy that apartment, because it's just like his neon lights on the side.
I'm not Daredevil. Listen, he would have been fine with it. I needed to get some sleep.
Oh my god,
Word. Let's talk about Shuri.
I was just about to say, I was like, let's move on.
We've been talking a lot about Namor. I mean, listen, he was a scene stealer. He really commanded the screen to notch. Listen, a lot of people have been, you know, gravitating towards the actor not just Namor, but the actor to know, being able, listen, the representation again. This is a diverse movie. You good at? You good? Okay, okay. I just want to make sure. But yeah, the diversity in the movie, people being, representation, indigenous representation with Mesoamerica, Mayan, Aztec influences. You got a Latino playing. Namor is like one of the biggest, comic book characters, and obviously a huge title that comes with that. But yeah, let's talk about Shuri. Because obviously the movie really focuses on Shuri. Shuri is the main character. Shuri is grieving and dealing with a lot of emotions due to the death of her brother. And like you mentioned earlier, the frustration that she has to deal with, because she is, like she mentions in the movie, I don't believe in the ancestral plane. I don't believe in the gods because I was given all these gifts, but the one time I needed to really put them to use, I failed. I failed.
Yeah.
Even if it wasn't her willingly failing, she feels like she failed. She couldn't save her brother.
Yeah.
And obviously, ultimately, that leads her to become the new Black Panther for this movie. But I feel like there was a lot, that arc that she goes through, and she's given way much more to deal with than what she's given in the
Hmm.
first movie. And I think Letitia Wright brought it. Like, she
Hmm.
brought her
Yeah.
A game, and she fully rose to the occasion. And she's like, listen, commanded that lead role as Shuri, and obviously the Black Panther, and showing all those emotions, anger. She literally went through all the stages of grief in this movie, rightfully
Yeah.
so. Anger, denial, sadness, acceptance, all that she went through it. And I mean, listen, for the most part, her as Black Panther was something I was looking forward to at some point down the line in the MCU, because I know in the comics she does
Hmm.
become Black Panther at some point. Um, I still feel like this is something Marvel didn't want to do with Shuri
Yeah.
until much, much later. But
Yeah, I
obviously,
agree.
given the cards that they were dealt with, obviously, listen, we need a Black Panther. Shuri, comic book wise, she's been a Black Panther.
Hmm.
She's next in line as far as the royal lineage goes. It was only the right move to kind of
Yeah.
make her the Black Panther for the movie. So I think for the most part, she did a super super duper job as Black Panther in what her arc was throughout the majority of this movie.
Yeah, I mean, I also thought like the foils that she got with like M'Baku and Killmonger, I think those were also really good. Seeing her, one, M'Baku telling her to like not go with the vengeance, and then you have
Mm-hmm.
Killmonger going like, get shit done, you know, get shit
Yep.
done, and her fighting with that because like she wants to burn the world down, and then like eventually we get like her mother being that like voice in her because she was like very upset that like she saw Killmonger when she went to the plane,
Right. Yeah. That's
and
not who she
she
wanted to see.
yeah, she felt like almost like betrayed by like
Mm-hmm.
the gods, which was interesting. And I think it was good. It was right to see her kind of go through that pure anger and like really needing to be pulled back at the end. And then that's when we like, we hear her mother's voice and everything like that. And I feel like she just had to be pulled back, and it was nice to see that. And I'm just glad the hell they didn't kill Namor. Like so happy they
Bro, if they
couldn't.
would
They
have
could
killed
not. I
Namor
would have
in
been
this movie, I would
livid.
have been pissed because
Yeah.
Marvel has the
Yeah.
tendency
Yeah.
of killing their villains. So
Yeah. Which I have more thoughts on that later. But yeah, I think she did a really
Mhm.
good, I think, and especially at the end, I think like her emotion, especially, before the end credit scene and the end credit scene, it just felt real. Like it felt, and it likely was, because like I'm sure all of them were close to Chadwick on set. But man, that emotion felt real.
Yeah, she actually came out finally. She recently spoke during the press tour
Hmm.
for Wakanda Forever about receiving the phone call
Mm,
about Chadwick
yeah.
dying and whatever. So she first saw it on social media, right?
Mm.
She gives him a call and he doesn't answer his phone. And I'm just like, bro, that's
That's
not
that's
bro, that
rough.
is
Like finding out on social media, like,
Yeah.
oof, of someone you
yeah,
care
so she
about.
she based so she calls and she calls him, he doesn't answer, she texts, he doesn't answer. Obviously the family's grieving at this point, so
Yeah,
nobody's really answering the phone.
yeah, absolutely.
And I think she called like one of the managers or something, his manager or her manager, something like that. Um, and she gets the news, and she was an
Mhm.
immediate denial. She's like, "Nah,
Yeah.
you're joking. Don't play with me like that." While she's on the phone with the manager, she's
Mm.
still blowing up his phone to see if he answers the phone.
Mhm.
I'm just like, bro, don't tell me that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
That's
just
rough.
that's rough. But yeah, I mean, all of that all culminates into, and that is on full display in the performance that she puts on in this movie. And you could just feel it from everybody, not just
Mhm.
Letitia Wright, from literally everybody, from
Mhm.
Okoye, from Nakia, Angela, Ramon, everybody.
Yeah, no, agreed. I like what you when you were saying that it's they Marvel knew down the line Letitia Wright was going to end up becoming Black Panther. In
Yeah.
the comics, Shuri becomes Black Panther eventually, and
Mhm.
even sometimes in tandem. Sometimes she was the
Mhm.
Black Panther
Sometimes
herself,
they're both
and
in it. Mhm.
while T'Challa was doing his own thing somewhere else, you know what I mean? He had to go to space, he had to
Yeah.
go be Avenger and all that kind of stuff,
The
But
crazy thing
no,
is, if we really did have Chadwick, we could have got them both in tandem. He could have been all space and whatever. And
Yeah.
in those instances where he's not protecting Wakanda, she's just stepping
Yep.
in, so
yep,
they still have a protector. So
yep,
Yeah.
that would have been super super dope to see at some
yeah.
point. But yeah,
See,
but
and like
I'll let you continue.
and when I was saying before too, like taking some notes from the comics, the part of it is usually when T'Challa is like, you know what, I'm really tired. I need a mental health day type of thing. I need to be
Hmm.
away from Wakanda for a while. That's usually when Shuri had to step up, became queen, took the reins and all that kind of stuff. And and she puts in the business, but at the same time, at that time, she was always like very angry, like, T'Challa, you just can't come back and be king. You know what I mean? You have to earn
Yeah.
it again. I'm
Yep,
queen now. And the only reason why
exactly.
he becomes king again is because something happens to her. But like one of the biggest things I think real life wise, she brought the fact that she knew it wasn't her time to do it. It wasn't really
Mhm.
a choice. It
Right.
was unfortunately something that just got thrown on her, and it breathes it into the performance. And I think that's
Yeah.
what made her even more believable. And I think that's why I felt the same type of energy and passion from her and everyone else, because I'm like, yeah, she wasn't ready. She didn't want to be that. You know what I mean? She
She was the
just
Yeah.
scientist.
she had to
She was
do
the
it.
lab.
Yeah.
The
You know what
lab
I mean?
person, The
And to see that, she struggled with her faith because of the fact that she was the lab person. You know what I mean? Which
yeah.
is like something they never touched on when they were
Mhm.
in part one, because there was no reason to. But in this one, she's
Yeah.
like, I don't want to even go. I was like, I'm not going to see nobody. Like maybe I might get so high and this reaction is going to take me
Mhm.
somewhere. And I think I see it.
Yeah.
But the moment she's all freaking,
She's
Killmonger,
in
she's just like,
a flaming room with Killmonger.
yeah. And she's
Hmm.
like, okay, I didn't want that. I didn't think I was supposed to have that. I thought I was supposed to have the euphoria moment and
Yeah.
everything, seeing
Right.
family,
Hmm.
seeing my mom. No, seeing him was like that awakening, saying, okay, there's something going on here. And the worst part was that she agreed with him. And it's
Mhm.
like, and she's like, she's so angry and all that kind of stuff. And, it was so many moments that she had that, made it believable. Now, like I said, like one of my best things I could say is that you could see how raw she was fighting wise, because even though she might have been the science person and all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, you would think that she would have gotten training,
Oh
growing
yeah.
up in Wakanda. But I don't think
Hmm.
she ever really got that, because fighting Namor, she was getting owned. She was owned like half the time. Like if it
I
wasn't for the heart shaped herb, she should not have won
Yeah,
it.
I'm pretty sure, and she also weakened him. I'm pretty sure, I would
Mhm,
assume that, especially since like the society is very heavy on females and like
mhm,
the women warriors, the
mhm,
Dora Milaje.
Hmm.
I'm sure she got some training, but in general, she spends the majority of her time in the lab. So
mhm,
like
Right.
I can imagine that like she did have a fair understanding of fighting.
mhm,
Like she isn't just like any one of us three that's just like thrown into a fight. We're not gonna be like knowing what flips to do and shit like that. But yeah,
mhm,
no, she was like when it comes to like fighting, she was getting her butt beat. And the only
mhm,
reason really she was kind of like, kind of winning aside from him being weakened was her technology and her suit, the
mhm.
explosion, being able to
Yep.
absorb kinetic energy
Hmm.
and then explode. It really was the technology that helped her in that fight the most. because I mean her experience fighting is not very high.
Yeah.
But like you saw her moving down the ship. Like she definitely got some. She probably got some moves from Dora Milaje. She probably had some training. I'm assuming because she's she's a princess. They probably got to know how to fight. I'm sure all of them probably know how to fight.
Yeah.
The mom was even throwing. Got that spear up ready. She probably even knows how to throw down if she had to.
Yeah.
But I doubt she fought much.
Yeah, I want to say because it's very similar to the comics. In the comics, before she becomes Black Panther, she relied on more of her technology. Everything was like tech. She was like, "Hey, I made these. Why would I not use it?" I'm like, "This is going to solve all my problems so much quicker than me throwing a punch, right?" But like Killmonger showed her how much those sonic freaking blasters worked well for her and all that kind of stuff. She got owned in 2 punches, you know what I mean, and so on and so forth. And this one as well. Like she just barely managed, and I think that's like what made it, that much more believable. And you know what I mean. And it was,
and I think that works in the film's favor because then honestly, if you would have just had her like, oh well, I know how to throw down like Killmonger and T'Challa. Just randomly, then you were like, you know what I mean? It just wouldn't. It would have made sense. Even though we didn't get the training montage, I do like the little montage that we get with her before, as she's trying to recreate the the heart shape of her. That's her training montage.
Absolutely.
I'm like, okay, this worked. I didn't want to see her, working out and fight training with the Dora Milaje, and I gotta prep for Namor. And then no, use your technology. Let's see how.
That's the invention montage.
Exactly. So I feel like that worked more than if you would have went the typical, superhero route. We gotta do 1,000 push-ups, and you gotta take the heart shaper, pump some iron, train with the Dora Milaje. We actually got a nod to one of the comic book covers when she's holding the Black Panther helmet.
Yeah,
I was like, that scene was great. The scene was great.
Yeah.
So I love those little nods like that. I enjoyed her as Black Panther, man. Like I said, this wasn't her time to be Black Panther, unfortunately. But the role came to her sooner rather than later, and she made it work. And we'll just have to see how far we really go with her as Black Panther. And then obviously M'Baku at the end,
Yeah, I think the best thing that they did was that she knew that she wasn't redy to lead, and
she's not the queen.
And she's like, and I thought, because again, synonymous with the comics, like she doesn't want to do it. But she's at least here. She knows that there's someone that's capable of handling it. And while I'm talking, of course, M'Baku, when he was in the scene, he was great to watch. I freaking love this guy. He's so fucking funny. He's great. He's charming, so great.
Bro.
I
love it every time he's on screen. I love
it. His one-liners, man.
They call him Cool Kang.
And then we were talking about like what we don't read books or something like that. Like, of course we
think because we live in the mountains, we don't read books.
And again, he was there.
Him and also in Okoye, man, she gave us some badass fight scenes. She put in work.
That fight scene, that
she put in work.
Her and Atuma on the bridge. I was like, I need more of these fights, bro. I need more of it. That shit was no soundtrack going on.
Yeah,
just straight blows, throwing hands, shit talking.
And I love how his people were like annoyed that like he was just like fighting one-on-one and like giving her weapon back like so she can keep fighting. They were like, yo, we got a thing to do. Absolutely.
And anytime, you know what, pick up your weapon. Nah, get back up. I'm not gonna kick you way down. Get back up. I'm enjoying this fight. Loved it.
He has super strength.
Changes.
He has super strength.
The funny thing is, I think he understood the fact that he's like, okay, with enough time, she will kill these kids. All right. So and she said it. She was like, I was giving them death blows. They should have died.
One got stabbed right in the gut.
Yeah.
And then she stabbed one of them right through the fucking stomach.
Which confused me a little bit because how did that one chick die from her her shot, like when what's her name shot her?
That was this
Nakia shot her?
Yeah. It was like a sonic blast.
She said it was like a sonic blast, which she said it should be weaker on them.
And it was from the range that she was shot. That other one, it was just too close. It was at range deadly. The first one wasn't. Second one.
So I just don't know how that one person literally she stabbed him in the gut. I don't know how they survived.
Well, remember
Listen.
they had the extra armor. They're remember she only put enough force in to kill a regular person
Yeah.
like that she's used to. So it's like it was just a matter of like she's fighting, she's thinking they're normal. They're not,
Right.
and the
Yeah.
same thing. So like that's the reason why the other one was like, he was just like, all right, you're a warrior. I'm gonna do it. And so before we finish off, like I'm gonna finish off with M'Baku real quick. Straight up awesome. Love him. Can't wait to see what they do with him in the next ones.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Obviously, he still got his ass whooped, but obviously he was fighting. He wasn't supposed to win his
Yeah.
face. But
Yo, I thought they were gonna take him from us. I
dude,
actually got spoiled on a tweet that he didn't die because some people were like, "Oh, they didn't take him," and I knew they were talking about him, and
assholes.
I was like, that's a good spoiler because like dude,
You
the moment I
can't-
saw
you
that,
can't
I was
take-
like,
you- yo, imagine Namor would have taken more than one body and shit. This movie.
yo, dude,
Bro.
my man destroyed that chest armor, and I was like, how you survived that? And then he was like, "Whoo!"
Yeah. So
Yo, he hit
I'm
him so
more
hard that he came back for the final fight with a
brand new
vibranium
armor.
chest piece.
Yeah, absolutely.
So now so with Amagu, right? Now that he's king, and there's a brand new freaking crop of heart-shaped herbs, does he now become the man-ape from the comics? That is the question.
I would say yes. I would say
I would
yes.
say so. Yeah, probably.
I would
So
say yes.
so the problem is, does that mean that he's going to be corrupted and he's not going to be the one that we're
I don't-
loving right now?
I don't think they're gonna. I don't think with everything that's going on, I don't think they'll do that. I don't think the next enemy of a Black Panther will be within. I don't think they're going to do that because the first movie was already kind of within because he technically, Killmonger is Wakandan. So I don't know, to have it have like the first enemy be within, and then the next one is also like is a similar society separate. I feel like they should do something else. I mean, I feel like that character has been so like good. You know what I mean? Like they've made him more of a good guy. And I feel like they should just commit to that at this point. And I like the idea of making him man-ape, but I like making him a villain at this point. It's just, again, can we just chill out on Wakanda? Can Wakanda get some love for a moment without having inner turmoil? Like because imagine like having their king become evil. Like I feel like that's like, and that also again secludes the storyline back to Wakanda only. And I feel like Black Panther needs to branch out of that. Like because I feel like it's a secluded nation. I feel like having all those stories kind of be stuck in Wakanda. I don't know. I wouldn't like that in like a third movie or something like that. I would like to see him be man-ape, but just stick with him being good.
Yeah, I can see
they haven't alluded to him
man-ape.
any kind of corruption at all.
Right. Yeah, I can see him becoming man-ape and kind of using that as a way to protect Wakanda alongside Shuri, who's Black Panther. Obviously, hopefully by the time Black Panther 3 comes out, she's a little more skilled and things like that. But to see her, as a force to be reckoned with until we get, T'Challa again, as a standing essentially. So essentially what you would have gotten if Chadwick was alive, you would have gotten T'Challa's Black Panther, Shuri as Black Panther, working in tandem to protect Wakanda, and someone going outside of Wakanda to handle all types of other business and whatever. But seeing his trajectory from the first movie to be somewhat of a, kind of a hater and antagonist, a little bit to kind of grow into the character he's been now, to be the level-headed Jabari leader,
telling her not to really go to war,
a counsel and advisor to Shuri,
vengeance.
kind of undoing all that. I mean, it's possible that they can do that, but I
wouldn't like it.
Want to see them undo that growth and whatever. You know what I mean? But anything is possible. I would like to see him as man-ape,
agreed,
but as a protector. As a protector of Wakanda, as opposed to an antagonist.
Listen, if
Wakanda,
if Chadwick was still around, I think that could work. Having him just be like a side, enemy or something like that. Black Panther would have to deal with.
They never really saw eye to eye.
Correct.
So I think if Chadwick was still alive,
I think that would work. They
could have built that a little more, and maybe he was not necessarily against revealing, bringing Wakanda to the forefront. That was more something of Wakabi's issue. But I can see them have some sort of disagreement down the line as to how T'Challa rules and things like that. Or it could even been a conflict, he got blipped. Wakanda went through whatever throughout those 5 years. and that could have rubbed, M'Baku the wrong way. And
Yeah.
that could have caused the conflict there. So, there's different variables that could have worked or could have steered the ship to have M'Baku become the antagonist at some point. But I think
I think they've already gone so far the other way.
The way we went, where we at now, where we leave them at the end of Wakanda Forever. Yeah, I don't think I would want to see them undo that entirely or at all, just to give us the antagonist version of Manny.
Yeah, you see how one question could make a conversation. This is what you're going to get.
No, that was a good. I wasn't even thinking of that. I really wasn't even
honestly,
thinking
I wasn't
that.
thinking about him becoming a Manny, but I thought him, okay, whatever. He's king of Wakanda. Obviously, he knows how to throw hands anyway. Exactly. He's never really donned the Manny, alter ego essentially.
Yeah, no one. Yeah, it hasn't happened yet. And there's so many storylines that they haven't used that they can use, and so on. I want to backtrack a little bit too. Is like when you were bringing up with if Chadwick was still around and all that kind of stuff. Because one of the things I heard as well is that he knew Namor was going to be a part of Black Panther 2, and he was stoked about it. Now, how I feel like
you're about to break my heart more than the movie already did.
and it's so interesting because I'm like, I'm like I said, I'm happy with what happened here. Now, I then there's time when after hearing that, I was always like, and then I started thinking, I'm like, but how would it have worked with Chadwick then?
Yeah.
Would it have been kind of diluted from it being a repeat of what Black Panther 1 was? Would it have been like, as epic as we expected? You know what I mean? And it sucks because it's like I don't want to have those kind of questions, but
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Unfortunately, those questions are going to be there. And honestly, I would love to see the original script for Wakanda Forever.
I'm curious what they were thinking.
This is not to just disrespect the final product that we got, or to disrespect anybody who's worked on the film.
It's just questions.
Obviously, it's just I would love just to see what we were meant to get as opposed to what we got.
Yeah.
What I mean? What was Coogler's and his co-writer's original plan for the sequel? Obviously, he did come out in interviews and say, we were dealing with the same themes. It was all about grief. There was lost time that we needed to make up for. T'Challa was gone for 5 years because he got blipped by Thanos. So there was a lot of things that happened within those 5 years, not just in the world, but also in Wakanda. Wakanda had to deal with those ramifications of that blip, and we never really got to see what.
And he knew he had a kid already.
And he had a kid already.
He already knew he had a kid.
That was grief of not having that time with his son and things like that. So yeah, I would love to see that original script and see what was the original vision for this movie. Have I enjoyed what I've watched already with Wakanda Forever? Absolutely.
Yes.
Would I go watch it again? Absolutely.
Same here.
I can't wait till it drops on Disney Plus so I can watch it again and then watch it a couple more times after the fact. But yeah, I mean, going now, even switching the topic, going back to T'Challa's and Nakia's son, who obviously dons the name, who's named after T'Challa. This was, again, this was probably one of the most emotional parts of the movie for me. Even though I knew it was coming and I knew what his name was going to be. So essentially, the recast that Marvel didn't want to do, they kind of did it anyway. And obviously, for some reason, people are still saying recast T'Challa, which theoretically,
I think like with enough time, like I feel like it's okay. Like I feel like with enough time going, at this point, we'll probably have like young Avengers. I feel like having that teenage 20, I don't know, late teenage 20-year-old T'Challa, I feel like that could work. I feel like that would be more honoring of that character than just swapping out the actor right away. I feel like that's a natural growth and time to, because a lot of people are like, well, you don't just get, a lot of people have been really hard on like, they're just trashing T'Challa. They're just getting rid of him. Yeah. And like,
no, I don't think people have. I don't think people
I don't feel that
paid attention to.
I don't feel they're just getting rid of. They're erasing T'Challa, and I don't see that. It's just like I think they're just trying to come up with a good story, a way to honor someone who's so close to that role, and to the teams that worked on there. And eventually, there will be time to mourn and move on. Warren and acceptance. So there'll be time to do that change. I just think we got to give it some time. So if they end up doing that, and I actually thought it was interesting because I was like, well, they're not going to do the Storm route. They're not going to do this where he has a son.
Would have jumped into that. I was
like they're not going to do this where he has a son with Storm.
Well, yeah, obviously.
Well, they can't
Storm
do that
can
now.
just be,
They've already committed.
No. Storm can be younger now. Storm doesn't need to be introduced until later in the line.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
If you look into it, if you remember X-Men, the original X-Men didn't have Storm. They had Beast, Angel, Morph, Cyclops, and Jean Grey, and then Iceman. They were X-Men.
We'll see what they end up doing, but I guess we're not going to get that, because but didn't he have like super strength from like the heart-shaped herb and like also like lightning powers and whatnot? So we're not going to be getting we're not going to be getting that. I thought he had some lightning powers.
He has a kid that has lightning powers.
That's what I'm talking about. The kid.
Remember that was
I was talking about the kid.
We were talking. Remember, I think we mentioned it one time. It was that Marvel movie that was made by a different company. It was the the dawn of the young.
We mentioned it on
Avengers
one of the episodes.
We mentioned it. That was the one you're thinking of.
That was the one I was thinking of, which was very interesting. So they're definitely not.
It was great. It's not off the table, I'm sure, but it's apparently not a part of Disney Plus yet, which sucks. So it's like one of those annoying things. But again,
I'm still happy with what they're doing.
Like what they can still bring a Storm being younger. And
they can still
progress differently. So it's like this new T'Challa, and then again, heart-shaped herb is still around. So when he is of age, he might meet Storm from Wakanda there, being one of the first mutants of Wakanda or something. And it could
there's a lot they can play with. Yeah,
there's so much. All I know,
I think they can still do it. We can still get a lot of T'Challa's comic book stories now in this new iteration through his son, essentially. One thing
the only thing we're gonna have to hear is like, I got Marvel burnout. I don't want to see any of this stuff because I've already seen too many Marvel movies. Listen, we're gonna be in phase 9, okay?
Yeah.
Listen, if we get a new phone every year, we're getting a new phase every 4 or 5 years. I'm sorry.
Totally fine with it.
This is what listen.
I'm totally fine with it.
I ain't got no burnout. As long as they keep, as long as the movies aren't trash,
I can enjoy it.
As long as they're not all trash,
enjoy everything.
I'm perfectly fine with a couple stinkers here and there. But like, if the majority I enjoy, damn.
Look, the TNB needs content. What do you think we're going to talk about, man?
What are we going to talk about?
Yo, come on. Like, remember,
talk about Bitcoin and shit. We'll talk about Bitcoin and Dogecoin.
Exactly.
No.
Like for God's sakes, remember, one of our idols is fucking Kevin Smith. If this man can still do it, we're going to be doing it. Just as long as him. Or we're going to take his mantle. We're taking his mantle.
We're doing this for the lifetime. We're not doing this just to be popping for 10 years and just that's it. No, we're doing this until we're brittle old men, and we got to get our wives and stuff like that to kind of hold our hand to walk to the kitchen and grab a beer and shit. I mean,
you heard that. Got it. you heard that. It's like how.
But yeah, one of the things I did like about this reveal, other than the touching scene and things like that, and the reasoning why Nakia was stationed
and the parallels
and Haiti, and then the parallel, the line, we decided to keep him away from the pressures of the throne. Super important to not want to raise him with that pressures that, at some point in time, I gotta, this throne is mine for the taking, and I gotta be molded into taking over this throne once my father passes, or whatever circumstances come along the way, in order for me to become the Black Panther and become King of Wakanda, things like that. That was super dope. The one that really touched me was like, and it ties back into the first movie, we were here in Haiti, and he knew his time was up, so he prepared him for his death. And then that ties it back to the line where his father, he's like, oh, a father who does not prepare their child for their death has failed. And I was like, nah, come on, Mike.
That's rough. That was rough.
Yo. No. You know what got me? Was the beautiful parallel that they did with who are you? What's your name? When Killmonger, his was out of like anger. This one was out of like straight pride and it was fuck. I was like, that
When he was
got me
like, "Oh,
because I was
that's just my
like,
Haitian name,"
yeah, he was like,
I was like,
"Oh my,"
and he was
he's
like,
like,
can
"My
you,
Wakanda name,
yeah, he was like,
my
can you
name."
keep a secret? I heard you could keep a secret. And she's like, all right, and who are you? He's like, T'Challa, son of King T'Challa, and I'm like,
Bro,
brother, I was like,
yo, I stopped. I'm not even gonna lie. I stopped.
damn,
I'm just there like,
"Yo, that got me that
I'm
one
just
tear."
I'm like, oh.
I literally am that thing where it's just like one tear fell and that's it.
that's it. Yeah, I definitely, I
And the
welled
time,
up. I never, nothing fell, but
Just
it
one tear
welled. Like
fell
I stopped.
it blurred in my fine. I was
on
like,
this side. One tear fell.
I
On the
stopped. I was there like,
oh
honestly, I'm pretty
my
sure I'm gonna
wife
feel it the next watch. My
my
next watch, I'm
wife
gonna get hurt.
was sobbing the whole movie, like the
I'm
whole
telling you that scene
Worth it.
is what
especially the
broke
whole
me.
beginning with like the silent
Oh
the
yeah.
silent
Oh,
intro.
that was beautiful, by the way. Every single scene from him in the MCU so far, the
God
purple
damn,
hue, no
Yeah.
fanfare, just that moment of
nothing.
silence to pay respects before we got into the movie. Beautiful,
Mhm,
beautiful.
mhm.
But yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yo, that scene really broke me. And that line, preparing him,
Yeah.
T'Challa prepared him for his death, tying it back to the first movie. And then what Ed was mentioning, like, asking who are you? There was a big theme of throughout the trailers and the marketing of show them who we are. And
Hmm.
that was the big emphasis of the movie too. Show the world who we are, not just the world, but show yourself who you are. Show Namor who you are. Who are you as a Wakandan? And I think that for that scene is what really drove it home. Like,
Yeah.
who are you? When she asked him that, Prince T'Challa,
Yeah.
son of King T'Challa. I was like, no, Marvel, you
Yeah.
breaking me.
And
Like this.
it's cool, so cool when Nakia scene with Okoye when and the reason why she welled up even faster before like the attack from Namor is because she wanted to say he's not just my king
Yeah.
and Black Panther, he was
Mhm.
also
Hmm.
father of my child, also T'Challa. You know what I mean? It's like, oh no,
Hmm.
she's like, he was T'Challa as well, and it was like, you didn't see that little reasoning why she held
Mhm.
back for a second because she couldn't
Listen,
say
Yeah.
it. She wanted to,
I almost broke
you
when
know.
she told the Okoye, he was my everything, and she was like, "Oh, my T'Challa."
Mhm.
I was like,
And now when
"No."
she said it, my everything, and then she still said my T'Challa, that's
Hmm.
still her kid's name, and it's like now
Yo, I'm
it
just like,
means everything
Yeah.
more knowing that,
I
like,
was like, bro,
oh
don't
fuck,
break me
beautiful,
like this. I
beautiful
did not
shit. It's
intend to be
so well done.
crying during it. And listen, we all knew this movie was going to be super emotional. Like I said,
We
that
expected
I
it.
held
Yep.
it together
Yeah.
for the
I
most
saw
part.
some people that were like confused or they were like, my children came and they were bored. And I'm like, you knew this was going to be a deep movie. Like, you knew,
Bro,
like, the trailer
I
was
took
showing
my
scenes from the
son.
funeral.
I took my son to go watch Wakanda Forever, and I asked him immediately afterwards,
Yeah.
"Did you enjoy the movie?" He's like, "Yeah, I enjoy." He was hyped when Shuri showed up as Black Panther.
Yeah.
He was hyped for Namor. He was like, "I liked all the fighting." I was just like, "I'm raising you right.
Yeah.
I'm
Right.
raising you right.
He
We
was like,
It's
we
I'm
all the
enjoy
doing
good
something
we
things.
right.
we enjoy good stories around here. That's what we do in this household. We enjoy good stories. I'm raising you right."
Oh my god, it's so great.
But
But
yeah, I mean, listen, I honestly don't even know where to go, where the movie goes next in terms of what
it's
Marvel wants
tough.
to do. But listen, I'm just gonna wait around and see. There was a
Yeah.
lot.
Mhm. Oh
There's still a
well,
lot to really intake when
I,
it comes to this movie. To be
shout out
honest,
again to Okoye and all that, and my
Mhm.
you know, oh my god, because they pulled it right from the fucking comic book.
oh, the Midnight
The
Angels,
Midnight ain't, damn it, I was gonna say angels, but I was like, what's the first word? My Midnight Angels,
the
they were
Midnight
on point.
Angels.
They were the best, like
Yo, the suits look
CGI and the
really
suit,
good. Oh my
beautiful.
god.
Because again, like I said, unfortunately, Ironheart did not look great. So in the CGI
Yeah,
and all that,
unfortunately,
Yo,
nope.
but the Midnight Angels looked legit. I'm like, that's exactly
they
what I
had a
wanted to
nice
see.
out though. They had the
Mhm,
perfect out because it was made out of vibranium, and they're like, you can't
mhm.
take it. So
Yep.
there's gotta be a drastically new design because
Mhm.
like you can't take that suit. So whether
Yeah.
people liked it or not, it's
Oh
scrapped.
yeah, and it's great. And I
It
think
don't
So
matter.
it don't
because
matter.
again, it's supposed to be slimmer. It's supposed to
Yeah,
be like
absolutely. It's supposed
functional.
to like
So
she has like one of
she's
the
good.
slimmest Iron Man
Yeah,
suits. Yeah.
yeah. She's
Mhm.
definitely getting nanites. She's going to find
Yeah,
a way to make
absolutely. Yeah.
nanites. So to get what Tony had as the last suit, that's what she's
I
going to
want to
get
know
because
how
that's
she
the only
gets
way
her
it's going to be
hands on
built.
some nanites.
We're gonna
Well,
find
yeah,
out her
that's
Disney
what's gonna
Plus
be
show.
it. And the great thing about it, and this is something I forgot to report on the page, but
Mhm.
obviously we know that Ryan Coogler is producing the Ironheart series.
Oh,
Obviously
he
got
is. I didn't know
I
that.
didn't know that.
Oh, you don't know? Yeah,
Dope.
so he's
Yeah.
producing. He was brought on as a producer for the Ironheart series because obviously he got to introduce her in Wakanda Forever.
Yep.
But it will also be a literal sequel series to
Ooh.
Wakanda Forever. It is
Oh,
not just,
nice.
well, here's you got
I
Ironheart
thought
Yeah.
I thought it
and
was supposed to
Wakanda
go with
Forever.
Iron Wars too, though. I thought it was supposed to go tie in with that too, though, right?
I'm not too sure they're gonna tie it into that anymore.
Ooh.
But I know for sure before Wakanda Forever dropped, they were like a report came out where
It
they
would be
revealed
weird
like
for her not to be
Ironheart
involved
was
in
a
Iron Wars,
literal
though.
Yeah.
direct sequel. Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I want to see.
It's
There was no
interesting.
mention in this movie of her being related to Rhodey to some degree.
Yeah.
I know they mentioned her dad and how he was working on the car, which is why the car meant so much to her and whatever.
I
So
hope
I'm
she's not
interested.
related to
Yeah,
Rhodey.
that would be
I
weird.
don't need that. I don't need that.
I don't
There's
need
no
that
I
kind
mean,
of
it doesn't. It
connection.
doesn't
Yeah.
have to be. I don't need her
Yeah.
to be related to him in order for her to have some sort of iron relation.
You mean like some kind of connection?
Yeah,
The
I
best
mean, they
connection
could
is
be.
Mhm.
She doesn't need to. He doesn't have to be her uncle, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
The
That's
best
all.
connection is legitimately her being an MIT. She could have got the scholarship that Tony was talking about in the last time that, like,
Well,
in Civil
his
War and
alma
all that.
mater in the
And alma
MCU is
mater.
MIT.
Exactly. You know what I mean? That's
Mhm.
remember, and one of the last movies in Civil War, he was giving out scholarships. She could have
Right.
been one of the recipients. So that's how she probably got the
Exactly.
plans. She got the schematics for Stark Tech somehow. Someone gave it to her.
I
She
just
didn't
want to
just
see how
find
she
that
gets new
online,
schematics. So are we
you know.
building
Yeah.
schematics from scratch?
Mhm.
Are you like,
Actually,
you know what I mean? 'Cause-
then that's funny. Actually, the way that you put it out, she burned the schematics.
yeah,
So
because
I
she
don't know if
burned
it
her
was because
schematics.
it was hers, but then, like, okay, because Shuri, so Shuri thought it was Stark Tech, but it was actually her schematics, and she was
Mhm.
making it. That's why she burned.
Yeah.
She was like, I'm not letting anybody take my work.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
okay. I
Listen,
just answered my own question.
if she's been around in the MCU, she's 19 years old, so she's
Mhm.
been around. She definitely knows Iron Man, and she knows his
Mhm.
story and how his tech
She
and
probably
all
met
his blueprints
Spider-Man
has been
too.
And
stolen. So
and you know she got that shit backed up. There ain't no way she don't got
well,
She
that shit
still
bro,
has a
backed up.
computer.
did you
She
not
still has a
hear her
computer.
250 something encryptions on
Yeah,
top
yeah.
of the encryption to the encrypted hard drive that she has triple encrypted?
It took her 3
Yeah,
months to
she
get back into when she forgot the code.
yeah, she's not playing around. She's not playing around.
It's written down in
She,
the iPhone now.
she
It's like,
definitely learned from other people's mistakes. So we know that much. But yeah, I mean that's all we really got
Oh
for,
wait, I will.
unless you
So
got something
yes,
else for Wakanda
well,
Forever.
we. It's actually no. This is the end of Wakanda Forever for me, but I'm gonna have to throw it out there because it's one of those news is that we can't really, you know, we don't want to talk about. But unfortunately, we have to. But like I said, I was like, I know the next time I'm gonna watch Wakanda Forever, I'm definitely balling, and it just because of the fact that if you guys have been paying attention to the news, TNB already posted it and all that kind of stuff. We lost Kevin Conroy,
We did
Yeah.
lose
the
Kevin
Yeah.
Conroy,
definitive voice
unfortunately.
of Batman from the animated series, Batman Beyond, and all that kind of stuff.
Mhm.
And I just gotta say, like, honestly, it's crazy because once I heard that news, I felt 10 times sadder thinking about this movie for this
Mm.
episode. Because every
Oh,
moment I
gotcha.
was just like, I was like, wow. I was like, okay. I was like, we got through the Chadwick Boseman, losing him earlier in the year because we had a lot of time before this movie to like really kind of just be understanding and be excited to see what they do for this tribute. And then to know that all of a sudden Kevin Conroy passes,
Yeah.
the shit got to me.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I was just I
Yeah,
haven't been
that
right
that
for a
was
week.
Yeah,
that was a sad day
You
for
know,
us
I
because
I
I
was
didn't even
lucky
post after that.
I got to meet
Mhm.
him and I got really lucky that I was able to meet him a while back, and he's like one of the nicest
genuine.
dude. Like
Mhm.
literally I just remember going out there so my parents threw away like a lot of my action figures like when I was like
Yeah, of
younger
Mhm.
because my mom just loved to clean out shit,
course.
and she threw away my Batman figures, like my old school Batman figures from like the 90s, and they re-released like the 90s style Batman figures in present day, so I got the
Yeah.
Batman one, and I went to get it signed by him, and you could either, get a signature, a picture with him, and you had to pay money for it. I was like, you know what? I just want to get this signed. I'll get a moment to talk to him. I'll just do that. So I did
Yeah.
that. I paid for the signature. And then when I got to him, I let him know. I was like, hey, I've listened to a lot of your interviews. You're a huge inspiration to me. I want to do voice acting, and you're a huge inspiration with your work. And like, you are the definitive Batman. And he was like, thank you so much. He said I had a great voice, which I don't know if he was saying that to be
You actually do.
nice
Honestly, I'm not gonna lie.
or
I've asked you. I told you. I'm like, dude, you should just mute just stop your video. I'm like, I just need to listen to you a couple of times. I've said that to you.
I appreciate that. But I don't know if he was saying that to be nice or he really meant it. Either way, I'm happy. I was super, super happy.
Listen, if I were you, I would have taken that compliment all the way to the grave.
Absolutely.
I would wear it on my chest like Superman's ass. Kevin Conroy said I got a good voice.
Hey, that's the best compliment I think I'm ever gonna get in my life. But so he sat there and he was a little small talk, and he was like, oh, you want to take a picture? And I was like, oh, I would definitely like to. I wasn't able to pay for it.
Yeah.
And he was like, oh, no problem. And he gets up, and he was like at the edge of the table. He goes around the table. His like person managing like the money was like, oh, he didn't pay
He
for
was like, it's fine.
he didn't pay for the picture. And he's like, no, it's fine, it's fine. So she was my fiance at the time, was going to take a picture of us, and he's like, is that your fiance or your girl? And I was like, yeah, it's my. And he was like, he waved her over to come take a picture, and then had his like lady, his like whatever lady was like running the booth.
Yeah.
She took a picture of all three of us.
There it
Nice.
is.
And I have that picture from that. I think that was like our second or third time going to a convention ever. And it just was like one of the best experiences ever. He was such a nice guy, like genuinely good person, at least from my experience meeting him.
He was super fun. We got to interview him. Well, Ed specifically got to interview him for the I think it was like the 25th anniversary for Batman Beyond.
Yes.
At New York Comic Con. Right before the pandemic. On top of that, so we got to chat it up with him. And
That's
before
awesome.
and after the interview, on top of that, we got to take obviously cool little self. I'm actually going to post this picture now that you shared.
Yeah, I just threw it because I forgot the share it with everybody. Like I was trying to find it, but after the interview, he was still sticking around. Me and Ozzy got to like still talk to him a few more minutes and all that kind of stuff.
He was such a cool dude.
Yeah,
it was one of those moments like, and I posted. And funny enough, not even funny. It was like important, like and this is the first time I posted on my Instagram, no less, in like probably like 6 months or whatever like that. I don't, I don't post. It's just, unfortunately, I should be posting more, but I don't. But for this moment, I was just like, I have to say it. I was like, this hurts. I was like, this caught me off guard.
That one did hurt. I remember hearing the reports on it first, which is why when I posted it, I didn't confirm it because it wasn't confirmed. But then we got the press release from Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
And I was like, that this is one of those times where I do not want to receive a press release.
Yeah. This is one of those times where I was like, I hope someone's just messing around and like, just like some troll account said it, and like it's not. We're gonna find out he's.
I straight up told Ozzy, and the worst part was I was like, I didn't even like I had to ask Ozzy. I was like, are you joking? Like, Instagram, instead of just hitting him up, like, I'm like, are you just posting some fucked up shit? I was like, what, like for clout? I was like,
Ozzy, what's going on?
There was a moment that I was like angry. I was angry with him because I was like, why would you do that?
How dare you question my integrity like that?
It was that because
it was that unlikely to happen in his head that he was like questioning you.
Yes, it's that moment of like hurt.
Listen, I do a lot of things for clout. And most of that includes spam posting at 1 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Posting fake deaths of people is not something the Nerdy Basin will ever do, unless confirmed.
And I get like it's just I guess the wrap it up is just like, hey, rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. Us talking about Black Panther, Wakanda forever. You know what I mean? It just reminded me that I'm like, hey, we lost one of the most influential people in in mine. You know what I mean? Hey, again, he's going to still be the voice that I hear when I read every comic book
every time.
You know what I mean? So he does the some of the cutscenes for for Sandman, like the Audible series, and literally it's just him saying, he was like, the Sandman, Act 3, Episode 4, the such as here's the title. And mind you, I was listening to it throughout my drive up here to Montreal, and I'm just like, every moment that shit hit, I was like,
Yeah,
I was like,
just had to hold it
fuck.
in. Just had to hold it in.
Fuck. I was like, and I'm like, okay, continue on. I was like, that's all I gotta
Yeah.
do, you know. But it's a shame, you know what I mean. We lost him so soon.
Listen,
But
that's
hey,
the unfortunate part of us growing up in the era that we
mhm,
grew up in, with nerd and pop
mhm,
culture
Mm-hmm.
developed into the staple of media that is today.
Yeah.
yep,
A lot of those greats are much older people now, and we will
mhm,
lose them
Mm-hmm.
sooner or later.
yep,
And
yep,
it's just going to be a harsh reality to kind of deal with. Like
Yeah.
something like
mhm,
Kevin Conroy passing away is like, yeah, that shakes the entirety of pop culture, because
mhm,
as we've been mentioning, and how everybody reveres this man as the definitive version of Batman.
Yeah.
This, you will only ever get Kevin Conroy once in a lifetime. So it's like, more instances like this will happen again, and we'll be right here having. Unfortunately, that's the sad part of life. It does come to an end. Some more
mhm,
tragic than others. But this is one of those that really really hurt. And obviously, but you guys can tell, we posted out on Instagram, and I was like, you know what,
mhm,
we're gonna dedicate this day to Kevin
Yeah.
Conroy. We're just gonna stay silent. We're not gonna post no news, nothing. We'll just leave that up, and we'll just let people mourn. We'll let the world mourn the loss of such an
mhm.
icon who
Yeah.
molded literally everybody's childhood, who's either watching, listening, and even us three speaking right now. Okay? Listen,
Yep.
after school, after school, watching Batman the animated series, watching that on a
Yep.
Saturday morning, you know, it
It was
brings
it.
some feels. It brings some
Yeah,
feels.
it's I'm gonna be rewatching so many episodes these coming months. And I'm gonna be happy doing it every single
Nah,
time. It's gonna
well,
be amazing.
always. And
Um,
listen, have that's one of those interviews and one of these opportunities. I
oh
remember we
yeah.
were geeking out about it
Oh my
when
God,
we
we were
landed,
so
when we got the
pumped,
email,
so fucking pumped.
confirming that we were going to be speaking to Kevin Conroy. Yo, if you guys would have seen, if we
It,
were like vlogging it, like if you guys would have seen how geeked we were, like
mhm.
reading that, we got
It was funny
yo.
because we were like, well, okay, we got these guys. We got the okay for Batman and Beyond. And we were like, so do we even get Will Ferrell? Do we got this? And they were like, oh, you get this, you get this one, this one. It's going to be the runway type of thing. We're like, so we're talking to Kevin Conroy, and I forget how we decided that I got to do the interview. You know what I mean? I guess
Listen,
maybe I just
I
kind of
don't.
like fought for it. I don't know what I did because I
I,
was like,
I don't
I can't
recall. I don't
remember. I can't
recall.
remember. All
No,
I know, it was just a moment that I was just like, you know what? I'm like, I was like, I need this. I was like, I was like, I knew, I was like, the moment that we were like, I'm gonna go for it, and then that's it. We did it. We went for it.
listen,
Best
the
time.
great thing is that
Best
you
time
you
ever.
got you got to do it. That's something you can always carry with you. We have the
Mhm.
photo proof, we have video proof that it happened, and that's listen.
You know,
You can show this down the line when you're an old
mhm.
man. This is what I did in my life.
Yeah. And then
You saw
remember,
some of the
guys,
cool stuff.
if you see me in my office in the past episodes, you might see like a little bit further up ahead, over my head. There's a sign, a signature, and all that. That's my sign picture from Kevin Conroy. Like it's literally a backdrop of everything that I
Literally.
had. So it's crazy. But I'll fit and like to wrap this up, guys. I'm like, hey, rest in peace, Kevin Conroy. Rest in peace, Chadwick. You know, the Wakanda Forever was a beautiful tribute. You know, what else can we say, right? You know what I
Yeah,
mean? It's
not
simple as
much to
that.
really
Movie
say.
full of heart, man. Movie
Movie
full of
full
heart.
of heart, full of emotion, full of tears, a lot
Mhm.
of weight, and beautifully, beautifully performed and beautifully delivered and crafted. But that's gonna we hate to end it on a somewhat sour. It's
It's a
seldom.
great time. No, no,
You know,
it was a moment that we
it was
needed.
great kind of looking
Hmm.
back at some of the
Hmm.
our moments with Kevin Conroy and stuff like that. So if you guys do want to check out that interview, it is on the YouTube channel, so you guys can watch that and check it out and get to see us interact with Kevin Conroy. And the image that Ed just showed, I will be posting it on our Instagram channel. But with all that being said, we celebrate Kevin Conroy, we celebrate Chadwick Boseman. That'll be it for us for this episode. We'll be back, I believe, next week.
I'm pretty sure.
For another episode. That may be a news review centric episode. There's a lot of stuff we haven't reviewed yet, like the upcoming season finale of Andor. I think the season finale of Stargirl. Titans also dropped, which, I don't know if you guys have been watching Titans season
I haven't
4.
got to it yet. Probably next week I will
so
be watching stuff. No
you'll
worries.
catch up whenever you catch up. But yeah, we'll be talking about all of those recent shows, and we'll be talking about some of the most important news and things like that. So, right before the holiday. Obviously we have some more interviews dropping. I think there's one with a Sleepwalk Kill interview that's dropping. We got to speak to Tom C. Brown about his animated film, Christopher at Sea. I will be dropping another interview, which we did with Sam Benjamin. You guys probably know him from his small role in Zack Snyder's Justice League. And we also have an upcoming interview with former Marvel Studios visual development artist, Anthony Francisco. If you guys do not remember, we spoke to Anthony Francisco back in 2018, right before the release of the first Black Panther movie, because he worked on designing the Dora Milaje and all that stuff. So he did get to design Namor before his exit at Marvel Studios. So we'll be chatting all that good stuff, looking back at it. So we'll be bringing some more Wakanda Forever content to you guys here at the Nerdy Basement YouTube channel. So we're going to leave you with that. We'll see you guys on those upcoming videos and episodes. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on bell notifications so you guys do not miss a video every single week that we drop. Again, we'll see you guys on the next one. As always, stay nerdy, my friends. Peace.